have questions for Shelley? Thank you, Shelley. Open it up for public comment.
Good morning, Russell with SKG. The only one thing on lot 60 we would ask, by going to a 25-foot building setback line, that's going to take up a lot of that lot. We want the flexibility maybe to be able to move the adjacent lot lines next to it, maybe over 5 or 10 feet. So if we could have some flexibility with that to work with staff, and I don't know if that's okay to be able to adjust the lot lines, because we're losing 15 feet buildable width of that lot by doing that. So we just like the flexibility to maybe go over to the next two lots and revise that for the final plat that's submitted for signatures without having to come back and revise anything. But other than that, be happy to answer any questions.
This is a preliminary plat, correct? It's a final. Okay.
As it sits now, it's marginally wide enough compared to the other lots. We'd like to be able to maybe come to 56 and 58 and just do a little bit
down a little bit.
Yes, sir. Just do a little adjustment there
to
that. So other than that, thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Anyone else have wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. So do we need to make a condition in approval if we're approving this, that we allow them to work with you guys to adjust the lot widths?
Yeah, I think the ordinance allows us to approve basically a parallel offset. So if you're just literally shifting the line over parallel by 5 or 10 feet, as long as that doesn't create a non-conforming situation for the next lot over, we can do that. I think just for clarity, we can definitely add that on this one as a condition. I don't know that it's necessary, but it wouldn't be problematic to have it in there. It's just restating something that we already have the authority to do.
Okay.
You want it listed as a condition or just as a note?
Actually, it could be a note
Note's
that
good.
says a parallel offset may be allowed prior to filing of the final plat.
We're talking about
Lot 58 and lot 60.
56, 58, and 60. Okay. Anyone wish to make a motion?
I'll move that we accept as presented with the note allowing 56, 58, and 60 to be adjusted.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as the staff's presented with a note to allow for the adjustment of lots 56 and 58 to meet the side setback requirement on 60. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So 4-0.
Jeff?
You guys have an extra copy of the agenda by chance?
Yes.
All right, first replat of Block 69 and 78, all of Block 77 and 86, Hatcher Edition. Request for approval of a first replat of part of Blocks 69 and 78, all of Block 77 and 86, Hatcher Edition, being 7.099 acres, southeast of the intersection of Howe Street and TLC Way. Two variances from Chapter 10.3A2 of the Land Development and Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a paving width of 36 feet in lieu of the required 40 feet for Freeland Avenue, an urban local street, and to maintain a paving width of 30 feet in lieu of the required 40 feet for Alexander Street and urban local street.
Thank you. Shelley Pascal, City Planner. This property is located between West Houston Hart Expressway Frontage Road, Dallas Street, Alexander Street, Freeland Avenue, and House Street. The zoning is general commercial and office commercial. The future land use is neighborhood and transitional. It's within District 5, Lane Carter. It is in the Bluffs neighborhood. Since I have the aerial up, one of the variance requests is the width of Freeland. And as you can see, if a installation of a sidewalk was here, there's a park just off the street or off the picture, and it kind of connects into the neighborhood. This is a proposed final plat. It is proposing to be 3 commercial lots with 2 variance requests. Both variance requests are for minimum paving width, both for Alexander and Freeland. The conformity to the comp plan and the intent purpose statement, we do believe that this plat does provide for orderly, safe, and efficient development of the city and creates streets for secure, safe, and functional systems. A little rationale on the variances. We are recommending denial on the variance from the Freeland Street. That being said, installation of a 4-foot sidewalk along Freeland would satisfy city standards, and then no variance would be required, and it would provide a connection from the school to the nearby park and the neighborhood. We are recommending approval on Alexander. It is curbed and guttered, and neither a sidewalk or widening it would provide any further benefit for the school nor the neighborhood. City staff, we are recommending approval of the first replat of Hatcher Edition, subject to 5 conditions of approval, denial of the variance for Freeland Street, and approval of the variance for Alexander Street. Subject to the 5 condition is the tax cert, submit a drainage study, which we have agreed with city engineering that this drainage study could be deferred. Another condition is construct Alexander Street to city specs or seek a variance, which they have. Also construct Freeland, and number 5 is submit plans and install sewer main in connection to serve lot 17. The applicant has asked for a private sewer extension, and the engineering staff can further touch on that. Any questions for me?
We have questions for the staff? What are the widths of the streets in question, Freeland and?
Freeland is
And
36
Alexander.
feet and Alexander is 30.
Are those widths maintained beyond the boundaries of this property?
In some of the neighborhood it is, but the Alexander, if there was an installation, no, I'm sorry, Freeland, installation of a sidewalk, then it would meet city standards. I'm trying to go back to the aerial. 1 second. And engineering staff might be able to answer some of that.
Thank you.
Morning, Mitchell Gatlin with engineering. In regard to the roadway widths, Alexander is 30 feet north-south, pretty much all the way to Sherwood Way.
Okay.
Freeland is pretty consistently 36 feet as well, east-west. One more thing I wanted to touch on while I was up here. On condition 5, submit plans, we have agreed with the applicant to word that either you submit the plans and install the sewer main or dedicate private service easement to serve lot 17.
Okay,
There's two different options there that they can do.
got it. Thank you. I'm going to open it up for public comment.
Russell with SKG again. Thanks for staff for kind of working with us through these items. I think ultimately as Shelley pointed out, their request for Freeland really is to have a sidewalk to connect kind of the school and the park there to the east. So the developer's okay with that. We would just like to defer that until such time they do the development there. This replat's coming in because they had requested some street and alley abandonment, so one of the conditions for approval of those was the replat. So they don't have an immediate plan right now for a development. They're just really kind of following through what they have to do in order to kind of make right the street and alley closure. So at some point in time, they're studying, looking to see what they'll do, and when they come in to develop, they'll be happy to add that sidewalk there along Freeman and wherever else kind of deemed necessary as part of the development of this area. So be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this case? All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
Can we see the first three conditions again, please?
So number 2 is already being deferred, correct?
How does condition 4 read? And is the denial of the variance?
Correct.
How does the sidewalk
Go
meet
to
the
the
requirement?
do you have the full conditions in here? One more. So denial of the variance would require the sidewalk.
36 feet with a 4-foot sidewalk. Complies. Okay. All right. Anyone wish to make a motion?
So that denial, do we need to specify that it would be deferred?
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about.
yes.
We would deny the variance, but the requirement for the sidewalk could be deferred to the building permit phase, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let's go back to those conditions, please, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented, deleting number 2, the drainage study. Deferring it, I'm sorry, not deleting. Ooh, wrong D word. You liked that one, didn't you? Have the 2 options on number 5 for the sewer. Deny the, Freeland being, how does that put it there?
Remaining?
Yeah.
Deny the variance?
Deny the variance on Freeland and defer the sidewalks that will be installed when the building begins.
You have one more variance.
So she
The
approved
other
as
variance I
presented.
approve.
Approved as presented with
Yes.
some exceptions.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? 4-0. First replat in Tract 10, Forest Park Edition, a request for approval of the first replat in Tract 10, Forest Park Edition being .574 acres and variances from Chapter 103A2 of the Land Development Subdivision Ordinance to maintain a minimum paving width of 24 feet with no sidewalk or curb and gutter in lieu of the required 40 feet for Hatcher Street, an urban local street, and to maintain a minimum paving width of 30 feet in lieu of the required 40 feet for Forest Park Avenue, an urban local street, generally located northwest of the intersection of Forest Park Avenue and Hatcher Street. Sherry.
Good morning, members of the Planning Commission. Sherry Bailey, Principal Planner. This is in an older section of the city and kind of an infill project, if you will. It is located on the corner of Forest Park Avenue and Hatcher Street. The zoning is RS1. The future land use has this area as neighborhood. It's District 2, Tommy Thompson's area, and it's Angelo Heights neighborhood. And as you can see, there's one large parcel that is now going to be divided into 2 parcels. The applicant has asked for 2 variances in this case. They would like to maintain the minimum paving width of 24 feet for Hatcher Street, 40 feet is required, or 36 in a sidewalk. And they would like to maintain the width of 30 feet for Forest Park Avenue. Again, 40 feet is required. I included these 2 pictures to give you a sense of where we are located. This is Hatcher Street, and it has the 24-foot width. And then this is Forest Park, and all of Forest Park is 30 feet, and it all has curb and gutter. In looking at conformity with the comprehensive plan and the intent of purpose statement, the plat does provide for the orderly, safe, and efficient development of the city, and the streets are part of what ensures safe, convenient, and functional systems for both the vehicle and pedestrian circulation. Forest Park Avenue has the curb and gutter, as I indicated, and it sufficiently handles traffic. And Hatcher Street has, staff is recommending that it be improved to 30 feet in conjunction with what occurs about 300 feet north of where this split in the lot will occur. The street has gone to 30 feet. The 2 lots themselves, the lot that's being divided is 200 feet, so that would have only 100 feet between the existing 300 or 30 feet to the north and the 24 feet. The applicant believes that granting the variance will not be detrimental to the public safety, health, and welfare on staff has concurred, as I indicated, on Forest Park. We believe that the 30-foot width works, but we do believe that going to 30 feet on Hatcher would make more sense, or going to the 36 feet with a sidewalk.
Can you go back to that slide?
Yeah, it's
That
confusing
says Country
because
Club
we-
Road.
I think these slides are the wrong slides.
They are
Okay.
the wrong slides. They got mixed up.
Okay.
I
just-
think
that
when
would
they
say
were
Country Club
downloaded
Road.
this
Okay.
morning.
So just go through those, because I don't think the next one's correct either.
Okay, we'll move.
That one's not right.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. This one I think is right. Staff is recommending approval of the first replat on Track 10 of Forest Park Addition with 4 conditions of approval. And a denial of the variance for Hatcher Street, but approval of the variance for Forest Park Avenue. The conditions are a copy of the tax certification to install water and wastewater service lines to a new lot, to construct Hatcher Street to city specifications or to seek a variance, to construct Forest Park Avenue to city specifications or seek a variance, and to submit the plans and install sewer main and connections. Again, I think that's a combination of slides on this.
Sherry, could you go back to the aerial real quick so we can look at Hatcher one more time?
Yeah. If I could just stop just for a moment.
Go to the aerial real quick. One more. So just so that everyone's aware, what she was talking about is this part that has been developed is already widened with curb and gutter. So the only part we're missing is about from here to here. It's about 300 feet. This plat would take up 200 of that 300 feet. So this would allow us only about a 100-foot gap. I think the aerial is a little bit easier to see. So right north of there, they've redeveloped. The road's been widened. So that's the reason we're recommending denial on the Hatcher Street, is that we're matching, other than this 100-foot gap, which maybe we could figure out something about. But other than that, this street will now be improved to city standards. So that's why
It's 24 feet
It is 24
at the
feet.
property boundary. What is it north, 30?
It is 30, yes.
So they'd be responsible for 3 feet?
I thought it was 36, but we can verify that. Mitchell. They've expanded it up north. That's why we were trying to match, but let's let Mitchell verify that for us.
Yeah, so the overall standard is 40 feet or 36 with a 4-foot sidewalk, but in this case, it would probably be a partial variance just to match with what's up here
Yes.
with the 30 feet. So that would require 3 feet, 3 additional feet.
So it's 30 feet
Yes.
up there, and it's 24 at the boundary. So they'd be responsible for 3 of the 6 feet, correct?
Curb and gutter.
And curb and gutter. Okay. Thank you.
So he's correct. It would be a partial variance to match what is directly to the north.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion.
All right. Does anyone have questions for the staff?
Is there no curb and gutter at all on Hatcher in that area at this time?
On this section, they're replatting. No, there's not.
No, there is there. I'm talking about
North.
where we are, this lot. The
No,
corner.
Not
going
on
over.
Hatcher, only on Forest Park.
Let's go back to that picture that you had of Forest Park, the house, the dwelling.
Here we go.
Okay.
You can see this is Hatcher, and there is no curb and gutter at this point, and it's only 24 feet wide.
Please.
Yeah, so there is full curb and gutter, full stand-up curb and gutter north of the property where it is already 30 feet, just not adjacent to this property.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And you can see, if you'll look in this left picture, you'll see some of these newer homes back here. So when those were installed, I'm sure it was improved to standards.
Okay. Anyone else have questions for the staff? All right, we're going to open it up for public comment.
Russell with SKG Engineering again. Mr. and Ms. Perez, the owners of the property, are doing this division really. Their existing home, what they want to do is build a new home on the back lot and move into that and then give their existing home to their son. So they wanted to be here, they couldn't be here, they couldn't get off work. So really this is, I'm speaking, I guess, on their behalf, asking for the full variance on this. Hatcher Street, I guess, to the south of Forest Park is still just a 24-foot, no curb and gutter street. If you kind of look at the street network in this area, the main traffic flow is really east-west. Most of the streets that run east-west are developed wider, 36 feet typically with curb and gutter. A lot of these little side streets don't really have kind of the density of homes fronting them and kind of serve as side streets. The property back, I guess, to the north where some of the homes came in and faced, yes, they have curb and gutter now. They're more dense. They're probably 50 to 60 foot wide lots. So So they do have that. So really, we just ask for the full variance request on that. If not, they'll make an effort to widen, I guess, kind of the 3 feet or a foot and a half plus the foot and a half of curb and gutter on their side. It may be a little tricky to kind of make it work grade-wise around this utility pole. And that may have to be moved somehow. So that may pose a few problems there. But anyway, be happy to answer any other questions and ask for your support on the full variance request. Thanks.
Russell, would they be opposed to curb and gutter along those frontages? Since it looks like there's a lot of curb and gutter in that area, and it would help their site?
I don't know that they're opposed to it. Is with a lot of the part of these neighborhoods, it's a financial consideration. I know we can't really ask for that. That's, but.
I understand.
But there's been a lot of variances. There's been full variance requests for street extensions on site. So, consistency and how we kind of to look at these infill projects and help them to kind of do what they can to fill in and fit the neighborhoods.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? If you would, please come forward, state your name. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Anyone wish to make a motion?
And if you'll look in your packet, if you have it with you, I don't know if you do or not, the homes to the north, there are a lot of homes now. I mean, it is very dense up there. We were just looking, they're probably, like Russell said, maybe 50-foot wide lots, but probably 19 new lots up there that all front along Hatcher. So that's a significant increase to probably what the road was being used as when the homes did front those east-west streets. So that is something to consider as well.
Okay.
I make the motion to approve with variances. Without curb and gutter.
Okay, second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve with the variances that have been requested by the applicant. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Excuse me. All right, rezonings. City Council has final authority for approval of rezonings. Z20-04, Performance Land and Cattle Company, LLC, public hearing and consideration of a request for approval of a rezoning from the single-family residential RS1 and Ranch and Estate zoning districts to the general commercial and single-family residential zoning districts, being 14.880 acres located on West Loop 306, 0.4 miles east of North Bentwood Drive, and 0.3 miles west of Foster Road.
This will be a very familiar piece of property for you. It is the property that you had recommended annexation. City Council had their first reading and will have their second reading on the annexation ordinance, and then it will all be annexed into the city. The existing plat that was approved back in June did include these two lots at the north end of the property, or I guess on the east end of the property. Those 2 lots were always intended to be commercial. Staff is recommending that they do go commercial. This piece of property right here is in the city, and it's presently zoned RS1, and so there's no change to that piece of property. And these 2 lots where the 18 half-acre house lots are, they're going from RNE to RS1. This is the Old Stone Ranch addition. It's west of Foster Road and east of North Bentwood Drive. District 1, Tommy Hebert's, I will never get that right. I lived in Louisiana too long. And the North neighborhood is Country Club. This is a picture of the future land use, which will now have all of the residential district as a neighborhood district. It has the area to the east or northeast as transitional. And we left the single-family residential homes in that because they are also covered by transitional under the comprehensive. The zoning, as you can see, present zoning does have the property that is within the city limits, and then the property that will be finished the annexation tomorrow as white, which will be ranch and estates. This is just a picture of where they are in the process. Where that fence is in the back is where the residential property starts. The property in the front is the commercial. We sent out 4 notices, received nothing back, either in favor or opposed. We've gone through this many times on the comp plan. This is compatible with the designation of the comp plan, is consistent with everything in the zoning ordinance, and what they're proposing will also be consistent. It is compatible with the surrounding areas in that commercial on both sides of this property is general commercial, and so the CG will be consistent with that. And the change conditions in this case is the property is being annexed into the city. That annexation will be completed. It comes in as ranch and estate, but because of the half-acre lots, which does not meet ranch and estate, it is asking to rezone to the RS1. Rationale for approval: at this point, there's little or no adverse effect on the natural environment, the community. The demonstration for housing is part of the recent study that was done, and as you can see, this fits a rather unique concept in that it's half-acre lots, not acre lots, but it is the larger lot for people who want to have a larger garage or a storage unit or shop on the site. The parcel is consistent with the development patterns already established in the area, and staff is recommending approval of all the rezoning. Are there any questions?
You have questions for the staff? All right. Thank you. We're going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case? Please come forward, state your name.
Morning, I'm Steve Eustace, and I represent Mr. Mark McLaughlin, who owns property contiguous to the east of this property, and I would like to speak in opposition to the zone change. That's a little bit unfamiliar territory for me. I'm pretty much a free market person, and I believe Mr. McLaughlin is also, but rules need to be followed. Could we put a map of the area up there with the sewer lines, please? Will you not have GIS?
I don't.
Okay. So it appears that this is taking on the character of a ranch and estate, but they're going to increase the density. because, and it says in the staff report, the reason they're going RS1 is to go to half-acre lots because there's not sewer capacity right now. So I think we're missing the bigger picture in the long term and what's good for the greater good of the city. We just passed a sewer bond to fix all those sewer lines out there. Now, there's a sewer line approximately 400 feet away. In normal development circumstances, this development would have to bring that sewer line to their property line, through their property line, over to Mr. McLaughlin's property. If we let them skip that process, then how's the rest of the properties on east of here going to develop? You know, we're allowing septic systems in. It's not good for the greater development of the sewer lines out there, which we just worked hard to pass that bond for. And we need users on that sewer line. I don't know, I'm assuming we have a CCN for utilities in San Angelo. So, and a CCN is a certificate of convenience and necessity, which the state issues on how we're supposed to provide utilities to future developments. Is that semi-correct? So if we skip and allow someone, and y'all just passed a subdivision just a few hundred feet from here in Bentwood, they have to tie onto the sewer. So we really feel like that if it's not available right now, maybe this subdivision is just a little premature for development. We don't want to start the precedent of allowing sewer systems when we just passed an election to fix all our problems out there. If they feel like they want to develop this right now and put in septic systems, then it should be zoned ranch and estate, which actually is what it is. I took a picture of their sign. It says, the foundation, ranch estates. So go ranch estates, put in 1 acre lots and put in your septic system. If you're going to put in density in there, you need to wait and get on a sewer line. 16 septic systems that close to the river, I don't think is good. Travis County's minimum is 1 acre. They're fixing to go to 2 acres. And plus it just cuts off people that are upstream. Now they can't connect to sewer because this one property owner didn't do his obligation of extending the sewer line to his property and past his property like everybody else has to do. Be glad to answer any questions. And also, if you go RS1, their floor area ratio is 40%. So a half-acre lots are 21,788. They can put 8,700 square feet of floor area on there, which is the same amount they could put on a 1 acre lot that's a 20% floor area ratio. So I really would ask you to consider the longer term greater good. You only have to look at the Country Club Lake Estates to see that they went out there and put septic system in a residential subdivision, and what's happening now. They're failing. You know, in the staff report it says as the sewer becomes available and as the septic systems start to fail, they'll require them to go on sewer. How is that going to happen? How are you going to have a sewer line at the border of a property and somebody 10 lots in has a failing septic tank? How's he going to connect to a sewer? This is short-sighted, and I ask you to please deny the zone. Thank you.
Mr. Eustace, if you have a second, I'd like to understand this a little bit better. So where is the sewer main? Or can the staff help us?
Okay, so I'll just tell you that it's approximately right here.
And which way is it running?
It runs this way.
And this way. Off of this, there's a property in between.
Okay, good.
So there's
I'll take over here.
Yeah,
Perfect.
there's a property in between. So about the same width
Thank
as
you.
this property right now, there's another property. So the current ordinance says that if you are within 200 feet of a sewer system, you have to connect. They are over the 200 feet, so they do not have to connect. Now, what we've said is when the trunk main does come in, which we're estimating at least 5 years, when that does come in and the sewer is available, they could then choose to connect. But this plat was approved in June with the understanding that that's why they did half-acre lots. They're going to have city water, and they could have septic on those half-acre lots with the city water per the Environmental Health Division of Tom Green County. So that's why they made those minimums at the time.
And we would have spoke against the plat, but we weren't notified. There's no
Well,
notification
and
for that.
I would add that in terms of the plat, let me say it this way, because the plat was approved, you're under no obligation to approve the zoning. The plat is if it meets the platting requirements, you must approve a plat. In that case, there was a condition because the lot sizes were too small for the existing zoning. We went ahead and you approved it with the condition that it get rezoned. That is placing no obligation on you or the city council to approve that rezoning. It was basically saying if a rezoning is approved, then this plat can be filed. If for some reason this rezoning gets denied, then that plat will basically die and will have to be resubmitted as a compliant plat. So I guess I don't want you to walk away from this discussion thinking because you approved the plat, you're under any
We're
obligation
obligated to move forward, and I understand exactly what you're saying. So,
And
and this land has been annexed?
Second reading, I believe, is tomorrow, which would finalize the annexation.
Okay.
So, in order for Mr. McLaughlin to develop his properties here and here, with the sewer line here, and they're not going to use it, all of these properties back in here, how are they going to develop without sewer? It's just not, I just don't think it's in the best interest of the city to start allowing septic tanks when this is in a district that sewer is happening and upgrades to the sewer is happening. And all of these, Bentwood is all in here and there's sewer there. So, if they want to put houses right now, then they should be zoned R&E, which is what their subdivision says anyway.
Right.
And do 1 acre lots and put septics in. We don't have a problem in theory of a residential development and a commercial development, but not under these circumstances with septic tank and half-acre lots. And septic for the commercial up front, that is not good planning and good policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Anything
Eustace.
else, Travis?
Anyone else have questions?
Good morning, Russell with SKG, also kind of representing Performance Land and Cattle in this case. And I'm a tread lightly here. I'm good friends with Mr. Eustace and do work with him. So really, I want to answer this more on a factual basis. As kind of working as the engineer for Bentwood and their development and working with the city over this Bentwood lift station and all the development that's going on. Bentwood and Tigris and another developer in Bentwood they're spending $250,000 of their own money to help upgrade this lift station in Bentwood. And the lift station at Bentwood, they're upgrading it to effectively the maximum capacity, is putting as big a pumps as we can put in there for that existing 8-inch force main, which is they say there's a sewer line, but it's an 8-inch force main that's now going to be at capacity. So there's really no tying into that force main that runs parallel to this property. So the Bentwood lift station sits further down here to the south a piece ways and then over to the west. And if you look at the gradient or the elevation, there's at least 20 to 30 feet of fall from where the Bentwood lift station sits to where the southerlymost end of our property, of this property would be. So there's no way from a gravity perspective to get sewer there. All the sewer is really going to start and originate at Mr. McLaughlin's land or the land on the other side of Foster Road there. So So the Bentwood lift station is not available for anybody to tie onto. It's at capacity. It's going to be at capacity unless someone wants to spend millions of dollars in replacing that 8-inch force main. There's no more tying into that. So any future sewer is going to come from a different direction. Now, when there was Stripes or Susser Holdings had bought a 4-acre tract at the corner of Foster and the frontage road there, we did a design for them to put a lift station down there that would serve kind of their tract, that remaining, it's goats out there now, the remaining pasture land out there, and then we would come across and it would actually serve Mr. McLaughlin's land from the east. And so really the obligation is for really someone else needs to start that sewer, and Performance Land and Cattle is kind of in this donut hole of no sewer. And so by right, in the way the city ordinances are written and the TCEQ rules, where there's no accessible sewer within 200 feet, so they have the right to go with septic systems. So that's the route that they're going. So this sewer, as they had indicated, is at least 5 years out, and talking to staff, it's at least means probably 6, 7 or more. It's a very substantial undertaking from design to acquisition to construction to, so it's a long ways out. So really, for development to continue, this is the best option for us. So what the developer is doing is we've set aside utility easements down the backside of the properties, an unobstructed utility and drainage easement, so that when sewer has to come in here or is available to come in there, then we just run up the back of those lots and they can have sewer service. Country Club Lake Estates, they're having sewer failures because they've got shallow groundwater issues. You've got homes really further uphill, and so they're having groundwater issues. It's a whole different scenario. I don't know that it's fair to tie them to what we have here. The certificates of convenience and necessity, those are a water supply issue, and so they're not necessarily tied to water. They're TCEQ mandate that kind of gives entities the right and the ability to provide water service, and they don't necessarily tie it to the sewer. So, if this gets denied, we'll probably put the brakes on this thing and stop the annexation request, and then go back, and then this would turn into a county subdivision. And we're not requesting annexation. We're developing this as a county subdivision, and we're following the city rules kind of, but we don't have zoning. And hold on, watch out. We can put in about whatever we want to put in. So I appreciate their concern, but I think annexing it into the city, having city services, the city control, the zoning that comes along with being in the city, is the right way to go. So if they do call it a ranch and estate kind of development, it's kind of what's in a name. It's a ranch and estate by city standards, and they just set that at 1 acre. That's kind of what qualifies is the size of the lots and the terminology from the city's name, but it doesn't necessarily how people market and sell stuff. I guess that's a little gray. So we'd ask that you approve the zone change request for this going to the RS1. Part of it is already RS1, and then just the commercial up front that kind of meets in. This is a pretty heavy zoning over here that maybe someday as that develops, it may be better suited as a CG zoning or something, but we would just ask your approval of the zoning as presented today, and be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Gully?
What were you saying on the outside edges? There's going to be easement on the outside edges for future?
Yeah, so on the plat that was approved, we have drainage and utility easements that run down the back side of these lots. So the idea is there's a and there again, we don't know because we haven't gotten through all of the design work, but there's AEP feed track that kind of runs along the south boundary of this property, Mr. McLaughlin's property, and kind of then ties over into to where ideally, potentially a logical sewer trunk main would come up, and then it would tie into that Bentwood lift station, and then that Bentwood lift station goes away, and so then all of Mr. McLaughlin's land, our tract, or this tract, and then even the Duncan tract between this tract and the Bentwood tract could tie onto it at that point. It's 5+ years into the future.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Eustace.
So, you know, the sewer out there is a complicated issue, and we probably hadn't had time to sit down and really, with Russell and the neighbors, and figure out what the overall sewer thing is.
Right.
As far as this being developed as a county subdivision, if they don't get annexed, they can't use the water, is my understanding. And again, we're not trying to stop a development. We just think the sewer is a big issue for the property owners. So perhaps maybe this needs to be tabled and we learn more about the overall sewer situation in an area and how we're going to solve it. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this case? Please come forward. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Discussion up here and a motion.
I make the motion to deny the request for approval of rezoning.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. That motion failed. We have another motion.
I'd like to make a motion to table and let the parties discuss this further and bring it back in 1 month.
Okay, we have a motion to table for 30 days or to the next meeting. And a second. All right. All in favor of tabling it until the next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's tabled for 30 days or until the next Planning Commission meeting. Right-of-way abandonments. City Council has final authority for approval of right-of-way abandonments. Street right-of-way abandonment, Jacobs. A request for approval of the abandonment and vacation of approximately 139 feet in length by 15 feet in width, 2,085 square feet of Ben Ficklin Road, public right-of-way, generally located southwest of the Ben Ficklin Road and West Avenue Y intersection along the east property line of Lot 28, Block 3, Monterey Edition.
Thank you, sir. This is a request for a 15-foot wide right-of-way abandonment along Ben Ficklin Road. The applicant is asking that it run the entire length of his lot, which is this lot right here. His request is twofold in that he's asked for 15 feet because it's 29 foot wide there, 27 to 29 foot wide there. And he's aware that utilities run all along this area, and some may be in the 15 feet that he has asked for. He has no problem with what was recommended by operations, which is to maintain an unobstructed utility easement over the entire area. What the applicant would like to do is be able to build a house with his east property line adjacent to what is the property line right now, and then use this additional land as his side yard setback. This is in District 3, Mr. Thomas's district, and the neighborhood is Rio Vista. This has gone out to the surrounding property owners, and it was sent out to all of the city departments. We did hear back, as was indicated, from operations, who gave us a list of recommendations that if it was allowed, and the unobstructed easement was the one that they recommended most. They also suggested that it could go down to 12 feet because they have some utilities in there, private utilities that they're not exactly sure where they're located, and plans for Frontier to extend some more, but they really only recommendation for that was because if they go in there, the fencing will have to come down, and the city will not be responsible for putting the fencing back up, and the applicant is aware of that. There were two other areas where such an right-of-way abandonment occurred. One was a block south for the Dollar Tree store that occurred, and then one to the north where a right-of-way abandonment was also occurred at about the same width. This is a picture of the applicant's property, and then you can see that this is the 27 to 29 foot right-of-way. If you look across the street on the east side of the street, that entire right-of-way has been covered over by asphalt, so all of the utilities are on the west side. In analyzing the request, we looked at the fact that we do not believe that this 15-foot abandonment will have any effect on the existing traffic patterns. It's all undeveloped property at the time. Because there are existing utilities within the right-of-way, the unobstructed utility easement will be maintained over the entire area. The applicant is aware of that. There has been no opposition from the surrounding properties, and including the school district, which was notified. And in this case, as I indicated, it allows the owner of Lot 28 to establish the building line right now at his east property line. Staff is recommending approval of the right-of-way, subject to 4 conditions of approval. To remit the payment for assessment formula outlined in the fee schedule that is consistent with the city code. Verification of the recordation of the quitclaim deed officially abandoning the city's claim to the entirety of the abandoned alley shall be provided. And then to submit and obtain approval of officially record a subdivision replat which absorbs all of the property into Lot 28, which will be the only lot involved at this time. And as part of the replat, again, the 15-foot unobstructed utility easement. Are there any questions?
Questions? Nope. Thank you. I open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this case, please come forward. I'm going to close public comment. Anyone have thoughts or wish to make a motion? We have a motion and a second to approve as the city's recommended, the staff has recommended. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0. Director's report.
Don't have anything for you today, unless you all have any questions for me.
Nope. Future meeting and agenda announcements. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission is tentatively scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. on Monday, March 16th. Council Chambers of McNeese Convention Center at 501 Rio Concho Drive. Adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? 4-0.
And 19.